tonight. 1 Kings chapter 17. We're going to talk about the training of Elijah. 1 Kings chapter 17 and verse 1. The training of Elijah. 1 Kings chapter 17 and verse 1. It says, "And Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, As the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word." Okay, so this is the first thing here of Elisha. Seems like he comes out of nowhere, and he's confronting Ahab about this situation here. But the story really begins with Ahab. You know, this was one of the most wicked kings Israel ever had. He went out and married a woman named Jezebel. Okay, and Jezebel was actually a daughter of the priest of Baal, and he brought her in to teach the people to move their worship from the worship of Jehovah to the worship of Baal. Okay, he wanted to change the worship of Israel from Jehovah to Baal, and one of the ways he was doing that was marrying Jezebel and making her the queen and all that kind of stuff. And so Ahab even persecuted and killed the priests of the Lord. Okay, so this was a pretty bad situation, dire situation. That's where Elijah comes in. Okay, the Lord sent Elijah to tell Ahab there was going to be a drought in the land. And the drought was going to begin with the word of Elijah, and it was going to end with the word of Elijah. Okay, and so Elijah here, he comes in, tells us to Ahab, and then as soon as he gets done prophesying, he disappears. Right? The Lord basically makes him disappear. And he is gone the next several years. Ahab spends the next several years searching for him. And so what we're seeing here is, you know, this time here is a time of testing. First, for Ahab. Okay, God is testing Ahab because Baal was the god of storms. Okay, Baal was the god of storms. He was the god of thunder. And, you know, Ahab had to ask himself, hey, we're having a, you know, Jehovah God says there's going to be a drought, right, until Elisha says otherwise. But if Baal was real, couldn't he just end the drought? Okay, so, you know, do you see this is a confrontation the Lord is starting here between Baal and Jehovah. And Baal doesn't do too good because for the next several years there is no storms, there is no rain. They're worshiping Baal, and yet it is not producing any results. Okay, it's not producing any results. And so God here, he is speaking to Ahab for the next 3 years, okay, through the sending of this drought. But also it's a time of testing for Elijah. Let's go back here, 1 Kings chapter 17 and verses 3 through 6. Okay, actually look at verse 2. It says, "And the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, Get thee hence and turn thee eastward, and hide thyself by the brook Cherith, that is before Jordan. And it shall be that thou shalt drink of the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed thee there. So he went and did according unto the word of the Lord, for he went and dwelt by the brook Cherith, that is before Jordan. And the ravens brought him bread and flesh in the morning, and bread and flesh in the evening, and he drank of the brook." Okay, so this is a time of testing for Elijah. God tells him, go out to this brook Cherith, basically out in the middle of nowhere, and I'll take care of you. Now, he's going to give him the water from the brook. Well, I can understand that. Okay, but also these birds, the ravens, are going to bring him bread and meat. Okay, now I don't know about you, Brother John, but I've seen birds take bread and meat from a human, but I've never seen them give it to them. Okay, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we would go down to the shore, right, go down to the boardwalk, and there would always be some person down there who's throwing out French fries, right, to the birds, to the seagulls, and all this other stuff. And, you know, they come in there, jump and get it. I've never seen a seagull bring me a French fry. Okay? And yet, this is what God said. God tells Elijah, go to this brook. Okay? You're going to drink from the brook, but also, I'm going to send the ravens to feed you. Okay? Every morning and every night. Now, you know, Elijah didn't have a refrigerator. Right? Elijah didn't have a refrigerator, so the birds brought in that food in the morning. By nighttime, he needed more because even if he kept some over, it would have went bad. Okay? He's not like us, right? We're fixing to stockpile again. Right? Brother John Lord's going to finish stockpiling his basement with toilet paper and all this other stuff and canned beans and everything. So he's ready. Okay? We can do that. We can stockpile food today, right? A lot of people have freezers. I heard freezers are hard to get right now. And different things because they're stockpiling everything, waiting for maybe a time we can't get things. But Elijah, he couldn't do that. Okay? Instead, every morning he depended on this food to show up. Every evening, right, this food show up. I wish I knew the story about this food. You kind of wonder about where is this food coming from. Like, there's another person that is putting food out somewhere, and he comes to get it, and it's gone. Okay, that's what I think is going on. I could be wrong. There's another person, he puts out bread somewhere, you got meat somewhere, and then he comes back to get it, and it's gone. I don't know. But anyway, so God is doing this to make him learn to depend on him alone. Okay, him alone. And so, sometimes in our lives, God puts us in a similar situation, right? What we're going through right now, okay, is testing and trying a lot of people, okay? When you go to the store and you see, for us as Americans, we're spoiled. We go to the store and we see one kind of toilet paper, we get scared. When we see one kind of, spaghetti sauce, we get scared because we're used to so much choices, okay? And yet, God is doing this to test us, to try us, okay? He wants us to trust in him, and so he forces us to rely on him alone for support. Okay, I remember Ronald Reagan said, the most terrifying word you ever hear is going to be, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Right? And if you're trusting in the government, you're in bad shape. Okay? You're in bad shape because the government is watching out for themselves, and by the time they get down to you, they might not have much left. Okay? So we're not supposed to trust in the government. We're not supposed to trust even in ourselves. We're supposed to be trusting in God. Okay? And this is a lesson God was trying to teach Elijah. And so every day, Elijah is depending on these birds to show up. Every day, he's depending on this brook. And yet, as time goes on, that's getting less and less and less. Okay? Don't you think that was scary too? Every day he gets up and the brook is smaller because no rain. Okay, no rain. And yet God said, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of you. And so it might seem like the world is caving in. God is just trying to get us to trust him more so we can grow stronger. In 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 7. 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 7. It says that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ. Okay, so that's what God's doing. He's trying our faith, and he's refining us like gold, so that we can be even more strong in the faith. Okay, and that's what was happening here with Elijah. Beginning here, God is testing Ahab. God is testing Elijah. God continues on. Look at verse 7 in 1 Kings chapter 17 again. Verse 7, okay? And it came to pass after a while that the brook dried up, because there had been no rain in the land. And the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, Arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belongeth to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. So he arose and went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was gathering of sticks. And he called to her and said, Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel, that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thine hand. And she said, As the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, who may eat it and die. And Elijah said unto her, Fear not, go and do as thou hast said, but make me thereof a little cake first, and bring it unto me, and after make for thee and for thy son. For thus saith the Lord God of Israel, The barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth. And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah. And he and her house did eat many days, and the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah. Okay, so like I said, the brook started drying up. Every day Elijah saw there was less and less and less. Okay, and I'm sure this worried him. And so finally, he woke up one day, there was no water, right, in the brook. And that morning, the birds didn't show up. Okay, and then the Lord says, all right, I'm ready for the next step. Okay, I'm going to send you to this widow of the Zidonians, and she's going to take care of him. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Okay, back then, if you were a woman, if you were a widow, you were pretty much the poorest of the poor. Okay, you were the poorest of the poor. You know, if your husband was the main person who worked, he was the main person that brought home the food. And when he died, right, a lot of widows didn't have much. They lived off of the charity of other people, and maybe, hopefully, their kids could help them. But they didn't have a whole lot. And so this time, and there were probably widows starving to death all across the land. And then these Zidonians, they weren't even Jewish. They were Gentiles. Okay, they were people that worshipped other gods. And yet the Lord sent Elijah to her. You know, why should one of them be willing to help out a prophet of God? Okay, but God did this to show Elijah that, you know, he was behind the whole thing. Okay, in other words, if it made some kind of sense, then they could say, oh, well, that's because, you know, this or that. And, you know, somebody was saying the other day, what about, how could that, I was reading this thing where somebody was asking this question, how could so many loaves and the 2 fishes actually feed the 5,000, right? They couldn't. Like Pastor, they wouldn't even feed him a good lunch, okay? And there's no way you could stretch it and make it stretch to feed 5,000. It was a miracle, okay? That was the whole point. And the same thing with this, okay? This was also a miracle that God wanted to do to show Elijah, hey, whatever is impossible with man is actually easy for God. Okay, there's nothing impossible for the Lord. So he meets this woman. She's at the end of her rope. She's literally at the bottom of the barrel. Okay, she has enough food to make one more meal for her and her son, and then that was it. They were going to starve to death. And so that was her plan. And yet this man of God shows up and says, hey, listen, make me some food first, and then you can make food for your son. And she could have said, you know, no way. I had to take care of my family first, right? I had to take care of my son first. And yet, you know, she learned to trust God because she put the Lord first. Okay, and there's a lesson in that for us, right? There's a lesson in that for us. You know, a lot of times we're tempted to put ourselves first. I've even heard people say, you know, they don't come to church anymore on Sunday. What's going on? Well, that's the only day I got to spend time with my family. You know, I work 6 days a week. That's the only day I got. But I tell you what, if you want to spend time with your family, bring them to church, right? There's not a better place they could be than to spend some time in the house of God. And, you know, don't say, hey, I need to spend time with my family. Use that excuse to not be in church, to not serve God. Okay, instead put God first, and he'll bless you for that. And that's what happened with this lady, that she put the Lord first. She had one meal left, and every day, like I said, God just kept multiplying that. Okay, multiplying that. So in other words, she would get up, there would be just enough for another meal, right? She would eat that, they would eat that, and then guess what? Next time she went back, there was enough for another meal. Okay? You know, the Lord didn't fill the stuff all up, but just every time they went back, there was still some more there. Okay? And so she still had to trust the Lord, but he blessed her for putting her first. And, you know, when we go through trials and our faith is strengthened, it not only helps us, but it also helps others. Okay, Elijah had his faith strengthened at the brook. Then he could help this lady have her faith strengthened by this, telling her, hey, listen, if you put God first, he's going to bless you because he did it for me. He'll do it for you. Okay? And so a lot of times that's, again, why we go through trials, is God is trying to strengthen us so that we can be a help to others. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 4. 2 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 4. Second Corinthians 1 and verse 4. Okay. 1 Corinthians. Here we go. Verse 4. Okay, It says, who comforteth us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God. Okay, so again, God puts us through these situations, then he helps us get through them, and then that way, when other people are going through the thing, you can say, hey, I know exactly what you're going through. Right? I've been there. Okay? I mean, I had a customer call me yesterday. He said, my dad just passed away. I've got to take his ashes and scatter his ashes or whatever. And I said, I've been there. I've been there. Not that long ago. So I know what you're going through. And he was having a hard time. I said, I've been there. So, God puts us through it so we can help others. And then the last thing we're going to look at is the woman's son. Go back to 1 Kings 17 again, verse 17. 1 Kings 17, verse 17. It says, it came to pass after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick, and his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him. And she said unto Elijah, what have I to do with thee, O thou man of God? Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance today, or to slay my son? And he said unto her, give me thy son. And he took him out of her bosom, and carried him up into a loft where he abode, and laid him upon his own bed. And he cried unto the Lord, and said, O Lord my God, hast thou also brought evil upon the widow with whom I sojourn by slaying her son? And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times, and cried unto the Lord, and said, O Lord my God, I pray thee, let this child's soul come in unto him. And the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came into him again, and he revived. And Elijah took the child, and brought him down out of the chamber unto the house, and delivered him unto his mother. And Elijah said, see, thy son liveth. And the woman said to Elijah, now by this I know that thou art a man of God, and that the word of the Lord is in thy mouth, is truth. Okay, so after Elijah had lived with this woman for a while, her son died. And she was upset. I can understand that. I can understand why she would be upset. Here's the man of God. She's helping him. God had been blessing them by giving them this food. Now all of a sudden her son gets sick and he dies. And she is really upset. She says thought God was punishing her. Okay? But really God just wanted to increase her faith even more. Okay? Even more. And also the faith of Elijah. Right? Elijah had never been in this situation before either. He was asking the Lord, why are you doing this? You killed this lady's son, right? She's here helping me, and you sent me here, and now you're killing her son. And so again, the Lord did it to encourage him as well. Israel was dead spiritually, right? They had decided to go worship Baal. Okay, they were deciding to abandon Jehovah. This was a bad situation. And yet God was showing Elijah, just like you're going to be able to revive this boy, you're going to be able to start a revival. Okay, you're going to be able to start a revival in Israel and see Israel come back to life spiritually. Okay, and so, God wanted to show Elijah that even though things seemed hopeless, right, through the power of God, anything is possible. And it's kind of strange after this woman says it here at the end. She says, by this I know that thou art the man of God. So all this time getting this food every day, she still didn't believe it. I don't know what she thought was happening, but she still didn't believe it. But when the boy got brought back to life, then she believed it. Okay? And then she really had faith in God. And so sometimes we're hit with a trial that causes us to forget the goodness of God has shown us in the past. Okay? And it happens pretty quick. It happens pretty quick. Everything goes great for a long time. We kind of take it for granted. It's just going to keep going that way. But then when something bad happens, we get mad. Lord, why did you let that happen, Lord? Why did that happen? Okay? And we forget about all the good things that the Lord did for us and still does for us every day. And so we have to be careful about that. It's so easy to forget and take for granted God's goodness until something really bad happens. The reality is God is always there. Okay? He's there in the good times, making sure everything's taken care of for us, and he's there in the bad times. Okay? He's there in 2020. Right? Making sure that, hey, I'm still here with you. And, he's holding on to us. We're not holding on to him. So we need to take comfort in that. He'll never leave us nor forsake us. And we must remember that is the case. And remember, no matter how bad or dark the hour is, God is there, okay? And he's working this trial out for our good. That's what he says. That's what he says. So I don't understand why 2020 happened, okay? We're all going through it together. I don't understand all the things that are going on in the world. A lot of bad stuff is happening out there. But we do know that God is with us, okay? He's still where he's always been. He's still on the throne. He's still in charge, okay? And if we trust in him, he's going to help us to grow stronger through this, come out the other side, and say, hey, you know what? I trust the Lord more now because he walked with me every step of the way. Okay, so that's my encouragement to you folks this evening, the training of Elijah, and hopefully that's a blessing to you this evening. All right, let's go ahead and go to our prayer time.